In this video, I'm going to show you how to create this very simple text and morphing effect all inside After Effects. And as usual, if you want the assets and the project file used in this video, check out the link in the description below. And now let's dive in. So today we're going to be recreating this effect right here, which is really clean and very simple to do. And the text is actually editable, so you can change it to whatever you want. So all the textures and everything is happening on this comp, but the actual text morphing effect is happening on this comp. So let's go open this up. So let's delete all of this and start from scratch. Let's make a text box here and let's make it say subscribe, which if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. And let's duplicate this text and make it say something else, such as say comment. And make sure to comment what you want to see next as well. And this text morphing effect is very simple, which will only use the opacity. So let's create keyframes for both of these at the beginning. Actually, let's start it in 1 second and let's go to around 3 seconds. So we're gonna make this animation about 2 seconds long. For the first text, we're gonna go from 100 to 0% on the opacity. And for the second text is the opposite. So it's gonna go from 0 to 100. And basically we created like this cross dissolve animation. And let's easy ease those keyframes as well, just to make it a bit smoother. And now let's start by making the actual morphing effect, which will happen all in this adjustment layer. So let's create a new adjustment layer and rename it to Morph. Let's rename it to Morph. So let's start by adding some effects to it. Let's start with Gaussian blur. And basically with Gaussian blur, it's gonna start with 0 and end with 0 in value. So let's add keyframes there. And at the middle, we're gonna blur the heck out of it. So let's go to right around like 145 or something. And we're gonna uncheck this repeat edges so it's not like in a box. Just like this. Actually, let's make it like 120. And let's easy ease those keyframes as well. So I'm gonna hit F9. So basically you get this effect here, which blurs out in the middle. But to make it sharper, we're gonna add levels effect to it. So let's go to this. And we're gonna change the channel to alpha. So we're gonna alter the alpha channels here. And basically all you wanna do is just get these two arrows here closer to each other. As you can see, the closer they are, the more sharp it is. And you don't want to like make it too close because you're gonna get this pixels here. You're gonna see every pixel, so we're gonna make it a bit far from each other. So something like this, and you basically get this one right here. So this is like the base of this effect. It's just this. So now let's get started adding like more textures and more depth to it. So let's start by adding a turbulent displace to this. Sorry, turbulent displace effect. And let's change the size to 50, to around like 50. And we're gonna animate the amount. So let's create a keyframe at the beginning here. Let's hit U so you can see the frames, the keyframe. And let's go to the end, make it 0. And the beginning as well, actually make it 0. And in the middle, we're gonna put it back to 50. So as you can see, it like moves with this, which gives it like this wobbly effect in here, as you can see here. It really gives it like an animation here. So let's create a keyframe for the evolution at 0% at the beginning, and let's go to the end and make it like right around 180, just so it's like moving as well. And let's just pull this right on top of everything as well. And as you can see, you can actually change the text to whatever you want. So let's change this second text here to like. But to sell this effect really well, you have to like have similar characters in the text, so it has to be like in the same length. So as you can see, when there is a difference in the length, it's like, it looks a bit weird really, but just make sure to have like a similar length text when you're morphing it. This one does work, but it really works when it's like similar length for the text. So let's change that back to comment. And now let's go back to the text morph comp here. So we can see, and let me turn off all these layers here, just so you can see. So we're gonna have this text comp here, which we created already. And I have here like just a normal white background, or you can change it to anything you want. And I created this vignette effect around it. So just to give it more like depth, and like to focus on the middle or on the text, obviously. And right here, I added these textures overlays, which we created like in a previous video. So if you want to check that out. And I basically like duplicated it and added like an invert effect to it. So it makes it black. So as you can see here, like it has like those black dots instead of white, as you can see. And now let's move to this comp here, which is fractal noise, which is just a black solid. And I added a fractal noise to it with an evolution, just to have a bit of movement into it, which we will be using in this. So let's move on to this texture adjustment layer. So first I added like a posterized time at 12 frames. And then I added a a Gaussian blur to it at 4%. Let me just turn off these just so you can see each one what it's doing. So obviously the posterized time, like it makes the comp at right around 12 frames per second. So you can have that sharp movement. And I added a Gaussian blur to it at 4%. And then I added the camera lens blur. And then we set the blur map to the blur map layer to the fractal noise layer here, as you can see. Let me just turn it on, obviously, so you can see what we're working with here. So basically with this camera lens blur, as you can see, it adds that blur to this, and it uses the data from this comp here. So basically everything white here is gonna blur out, which create that depth for this, as you can see. And then I added like a curves layer, a curves effect to this with like a slight S curve here, and then added a bit of a curve to the blue channel, just to give those shadows a bit of like a blue hue, as you can see. And then I added the noise effect to this with 10%, just to give it that cinematic look. And there we have it, a very simple and clean text morphing effect that you can use in all of your projects. And actually you can use this effect with not just text, but you can use it with actually shapes, icons, and everything else. And now if you want to learn how to create this text underline effect that you can use actually with this effect that we learned today, check out this video right here.